doesn't know the FPE game by Google, it's basically Baldi's Basics at home. However, before I go ripping and tearing, I should probably say that the FPE game and Baldi's Basics Plus are still currently in early access, so there's still a chance for significant changes to be made, even if they won't be noticed right away. This game looks terrible. 3D objects have inconsistent rendering and 2D objects don't fit the FPE aesthetic. It also just looks cheap in general, and so does Baldi, but I feel like it makes much better use of stylization. 2D and live action elements only look slightly different from the 3D environments. And something else worth noting is that the game is a parody of old educational games, so the way it looks almost feels self-aware, like it's making fun of the crudeness it presents. But I think something even worse about how this game looks is that the wall, floor, and roof textures don't have enough separation between them, and that makes it a little hard to see, at least at first. Meanwhile, the Baldi equivalents of those textures are very distinct, and the wall texture doesn't feel very intrusive to the game's visual readability, except the teleporter floor. I hate how this looks. And you know what's weird? The FPE game used to have more distinct environmental textures in its alpha phase, and it still looks a little ugly, but I wouldn't say it looks objectively bad, because I can at least tell more easily where I can turn or what's the end of a space. Oh wait, we're moving on to that gameplay already, okay. Unlike in Baldi, you still retain a small bit of momentum when you stop moving, and while it's not that big of a deal, I don't think it's a good fit in a game focused on evasion. Also, the movement speed in Beta 2 is way too fast. I like the quick speed in Baldi's Basics Plus compared to Classic, but it feels completely overkill here. There are times where I'm trying to enter or leave a room quickly, but I keep missing the doorway because I'm too freaking fast. You could probably also argue that it makes the game too easy since you can easily outrun the teachers, at least until Miss Thaffel just kills you for no reason, or so it seems. But aside from things that others might just perceive as a skill issue, how about that core gameplay? Yawn. It just feels like a watered down version of Baldi, which already has a simple gameplay loop, but it knows how to make itself more interesting. Alpha 1 of the FPE game was pretty much the most bare bones version of Baldi possible. Miss Circle does still hear every door you open, but that's about it. Then, along with Miss Bloomy, Alpha 2 introduced stealth elements, hiding in lockers and behind desks away from the teacher's field of vision. I wouldn't exactly say I'm a fan of it, but it definitely adds some much needed spice to the game. Then Alpha 3 introduced items, but they feel like such an afterthought. Healing, infinite sprint, bee soda clone, apple for Baldi clone that's now a projectile. Meanwhile, the items in Baldi kinda feel like they're adding strategy to the game. Remember, it's not a test of academics, it's a test of wit. Some items are more rigid in their usage, but others are actually quite flexible. You could use the scissors to cut Playtime's jump rope so you don't have to stop and jump rope, or you could use it on yourself if you get stuck in Beans' gum, or you could use it on First Prize so he can't push you around, but you can also use that to your advantage, just like with the Gotta Sweep or the Cloud Airplane thing and other stuff that can move you, unless you use the big ol' boots. You could use the quarter to get some snacks, but sometimes there will be a door that needs a quarter to be unlocked. You could use the principal's whistle to get rid of the bully without him stealing one of your other items, or you can use it, run in front of him, and intentionally get sent to detention if that's your best option for getting distance from Baldi. Also, not that it relates to the gameplay, but these items do not fit the setting. FP has supernatural elements, but I never thought there were potions. Baldi's Basics Plus also has more fantastical thingies compared to the more grounded setting of Classic, but Plus specifically establishes itself to be that way, and it's still a parody, so it's just doing what those games did. Anyway, you know how Baldi has all these obstacles like characters and events to mess you up, a choice that was clearly made to make the game more challenging, though admittedly not entirely for the better considering how much randomness is just part of the experience. Well, the 3 teachers are one of only 2 obstacles in the FPE game. All 3 of them attack differently, and it's probably the part of the game of all time. I actually don't know what to say about it. The other hazard type added in Beta 2 is these box and stick traps that temporarily spawn over the tests you have to collect if you use this thing to reveal where they are. It sounds like a good compromise in concept, but in practice you just wait for the traps to disappear and you can still freely explore the school while they're active, so it's not even like going to detention in Baldi where you at least have the tension of hoping you can leave before Baldi catches you. Maybe navigating the school could be a challenge, but it's a very passive challenge. I guess using your stamina wisely would also count as that. But in Beta Beta 2, you'll pretty much never think about it since you're so fast and your stamina recovers so quickly as well. Also, the stealth elements were dropped in Beta 1. They would have been kinda useless to have now, but now that they're gone, it makes the game feel so much more basic. But don't think that something needs to be basic to be bad or disliked. In Beta 1, the game also got a brand new map, and it sucks. First of all, even just the layout of the school is awful. It looks more like if the backrooms tried to remember the paper school than like it was designed to be a school or even for a video game. There's also parts of the school that you straight up don't have to explore, and if you're trying to outrun the teachers, you'll probably get lost that way. Speaking of pointless locations, this map is way too big. Not only are there not enough tests for every classroom, but they're also not spread out enough to where you have to travel across the school more. I've also had some runs where I rarely ever run into the teachers since they're so far away, I'm assuming. It's literally the same as a AAA open world game. The spectacle is cool, but the more you play, the more it feels like a nuisance. Baldi, on the other hand, understands that a map is better designed when every location is useful, or at least interesting. On top of that, you're not gonna get lost as much as you might think. The classic schoolhouse has distinct landmarks, and the super schoolhouse flat out gives you a map since it's randomly generated. And as much as the school might also resemble liminal space, it was intentional because it's a horror game, or at least it's supposed to be. On top of that, the doors that lead to different rooms also look different. Blue 99 doors go to classrooms, faculty doors go to faculty, big yellow doors either stay in the halls or lead to centerpieces, and other types of rooms also have unique doors, making it easier for the player to understand where they're going and what characters they'll encounter in Baldi's Basics Plus. The FPE game has 3 types of doors, yet they all lead to classrooms. I know that's how it is in the cartoon, but I'm not in the cartoon. I'm one puffy boy, the epic gamer pufferfish, scourge of the FPE fandom, aka Nico. But wait, there's more. Firstly, the how to play section was removed in Beta 1, meaning you now have to learn everything through trial and error. How was I supposed to know at first that Miss Bloomy disabling my sprint was an intentional feature and not a bug? How am I supposed to know now if Miss Circle can hear every door I open? I don't even know how Miss Thavel works, so half the time when I get killed by her, it just feels unfair. To be fair though, Baldi is also pretty reliant on trial and error, but that's not to say it refrains from explaining anything from you. When you get the impossible question wrong, Baldi just says he hears every door you open, but since someone might assume that's just a scary threat for the sake of it, I'm assuming that's why the Baldicator was added. There are posters in the principal's office that tell you how the other characters work. There's a standard tutorial in Baldi's Basics Plus. Even Baldi's Basics Classic has a better tutorial than the FPE game. You start in a small area that gives you a quick overview of notebooks and items, and then it becomes a horror game. In the FPE game, you can fully explore the school before you even collect the first test, which might be an impossible question, so it doesn't even ease you into the main game. Oh, and speaking of the impossible question, in Beta 2, getting the first test wrong is the only way you'll be notified if a teacher has started trying to kill you, and that might be a bit frustrating for someone unfamiliar with the game, compared to Baldi where it's clear when you're initially in danger and it's clear when you're in more danger. Next, you can't skip the death animations in the FPE game, and while you can't skip the death and menu animations in Baldi either, they're at least much shorter, so it doesn't feel like as much of a pain waiting to get back into the actual game, especially when the pacing in Beta 2 is so much faster. Also in Baldi, there's a really useful feature where you hold a button to quickly look behind you, but the FPE game never had this, and it was especially necessary in the alphas where the map was much smaller and there were 2 characters that could kill you. And now for my last few complaints, I guess. The sound effects that the teachers make aren't nearly as distinct as the sound effects that the characters in Baldi make, though maybe it's not that bad since all the characters in Baldi do something different, and while the FPE teachers behave differently, they also serve the same purpose. Google said they were planning to add more NPCs to the game, and yet not a single new character has been added. And finally, something called FPE Dreadpoint was teased in Beta 1, which looks like some kind of bonus game in the same vein as Bowser's Fury or Shadow Generations, and I find that really weird. Firstly, from what I've heard, a game's beta phase typically just includes small changes like bug fixes and optimization, so it seems a little late to tease, not even fully introduce, something so major. And second, it also feels too early to tease this as if it's some kind of post-launch feature when the main game isn't finished yet, but whatever, this guy's still an amateur, and hopefully in their next game they'll try to put more thought into it. That's about it. See ya.